a lot of the people who are really entrenched in the community in the sense that they play all the time, or they commentate, or what have you, they quite often know the answers to their questions, and sometimes they won't ask those questions because of that reason. What you need is someone like me who knows nothing. then you get to ask those questions. But where were we last time? We talked about some of my live events, which was kind of interesting. Very interesting experience. Loads of, I guess, Arcade Edition was coming out, something. Honestly can't remember. Uden Collectibles. Used to love collecting these gold cards. And then there was a tournament in Canada, which was cool. Organised by Lapchi, no doubt. In fact, I interviewed him there. I interviewed Teemo. See, now, this is one of those interviews where there's a really good example of often the big names aren't always the best people to interview. Like, there are up-and-coming people who can be tremendously insightful and really are really excited to be there and share their knowledge. And Teemo was really good. Teemo, I'm not 100% sure, but I think he may have been the first person to win MVCI at a major or something like that. There was something. He was the first something. But he was also someone I was unaware of. So, and most people, I would say, were probably unaware of. I'm sure there's some of you out there who were aware of him, but he came out of nowhere and won MVCI, and it was really fun to interview him, partly because he's someone new, partly because I didn't know a huge amount about MVCI, so it's fun trying to get to know a game and research it and watch it and then talk to somebody who really knows their stuff. So, a lot of the time I felt like even if I didn't know the answers to my questions, because a lot of the people who are really entrenched in the community in the sense that they play all the time, or they commentate, or what have you, they quite often know the answers to their questions, and sometimes they won't ask those questions because of that reason. What you need is someone like me who knows nothing. then you get to ask those questions. So I always thought Teemo was good. Shanghai, I don't know if this was my first Shanghai interview. Might have been. Legendary player. I think Tyrant was there working, so I grabbed him. Tried to get a couple of UK. I think I tried to get a couple of UK interviews here because I was in America. I was English, but I was in America. Wasn't in England. Problem X, I did actually. Funnily enough, he could have been one of the first people that I ever interviewed. He was because he was always in America, as I remember it. He was always one of of the English people. He was one of those people who was out in America quite a lot, particularly for East Coast competitions, although I'm not 100% sure. But he was at Defend the North, whatever year it was, where I interviewed Dominion and Nakadu, but that was that interview that didn't make it, didn't make the final cut. And I remember Dominion saying, "You should interview." I just walked in, but he was like, "You should do it," because I already gotten to know Dominion a little bit in the sense that we knew who each other were and what we were there to do. And he was like, you should interview Problem X, he's here. So I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And we were looking at it, and this is in my less organized days. This was just sort of, let's make it happen when it happens. And I think he got knocked out in that competition, and the interview just didn't happen in the end. These things happen, like, you know how they say, like, don't approach a player after they've lost a match to get a photograph or to have idle chit chat or whatever, because these guys are taking this as seriously as any other professional sports person or whatever. Like, they've sunk amazing amounts of hours into this. It's incredibly important to them, and the losing part is rough. And you know, there's so many different reactions to losing, which is really interesting. Like when I watched Ryan Hart get beaten by Momochi at Capcom Cup, which was when it was in San Francisco. I forget which year it was. Maybe it was Street Fighter 4, so it was like 2014 maybe. Might be one of the last Street Fighter 4, and it might have been like the Capcom Cup might have been the testing ground for what they were going to do with their esports for Street Fighter 5. But Momochi had this comeback against Ryan Hart, which was just phenomenal. I mean, just amazing. I mean, it looked good, you know. And I'll never forget that Ryan Hart afterwards sort of had a moment to himself where he just paused and he sort of went like this, and then he went right, and then he went like that. I actually asked him about it. It's one of my favorite interviews as well, for different reasons actually. But he said that he was just thinking, like, what did I do wrong? How did this happen? He was going over the match there and then in real time on that stage. You know, when I think, you know, many other people would be thinking about the fact that they were on stage, they just lost, their emotions are taking over. And Ryan Hart was just like treating it like any other match in a very long journey, much like Ryu maybe or something. You know, it's like it's this never-ending journey, and he was just thinking, like, well, how did I lose that? And then there was this. I swear there was this. I need to go back and watch it. I swear there's this little nod or finger or something where he's like, yeah, okay, I get it. I get what just happened, and then he wraps up his fight stick, maybe he shook Momochi's hand or whatever and left the stage, and Momochi actually went on to win that tournament. And he was like he was basically out. He was basically out. That was loser's bracket. But anyway, but yeah, so different people, like you know, like I think it's like in my early days I may have approached him after he had been knocked out. I don't think it was on purpose. I just don't think I was paying attention, and was like, well, do you want to do the interview now? And he was like, I can't remember what he said. It might have been like later or something like that. So it was actually years later that we got to do this interview, which could have been the second interview, but it wasn't. But it was cool, if I remember correctly. Charity as well. The whole thing was interesting. Punk, you know, he brings in the numbers, 16,000. Punk was being Punk in that interview. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, just it was a good number of interviews I managed to get in Canada. At this time, you know, I was sort of I was becoming a little bit more well known. People were more supportive. I had people sitting down I remember comments in the videos used to tell me once the interviews got too long, comments in the videos used to say, "Can you let them sit down, please?" I was like, "It's a fair point. I can stand up forever. Like I've got that weird that I have like my genes are like I forget what they call it, fast and slow twitch. Maybe it's something like that. But in regards to like, I'm good at endurance, right? But I'm not great at power. Whereas, obviously I'd prefer to be great at power. I'd love to be like a big muscle man or whatever. But when I used to go to the gym, I could see me and my friends, I could see the difference between me and certain people, like in terms of them blowing up in terms of size and like they seem to be much more built for power. And being their friends, we'd go for a walk or something and they'd be tired because they went for a walk. And I'd be like, what the fuck? So my whole thing is endurance. Anyway, that was back then. This video doesn't really have much of a point, although maybe there is one when I watch it back. But it looks like we're about to start talking about skits. Because I think there's a skit here. This obviously looks like a skit, right? But I think the way I started my skits was they were at the beginning of videos. And then they became their own thing. Oh, there's a Kuma's V-Trigger too. I don't know if we want to spend time talking about that. Although that did get 42,000 views because stuff was going on. The other stuff that was happening at that time is people were sending me merchandise. I was just thinking about, do you know what I was just thinking about right then? I was thinking this video is too long and I've got to start again and I've got to do it all again. But I don't know, it's Wednesday and I just want to push a video out and just let it be what it is. I would just like to say thank you to Erawan, if that's how you say it. Whenever I see people's like names, I'm always thinking, like, where does it come from? Like, how do I break this down? Like, what's going on here? Like, is that a legitimate name? I don't know. Is it something backwards, like nowhere? Is it nowhere? Is it made up of era and one? I don't know, bro. It's a mystery. It's a mystery, everyone. But thanks for the support, and thank you. Also, I got supported by someone anonymous as well. So thank you to you, Mr. Anonymous. There was something automatic that happened on this screen. Hang on. Let me see if I can get it to work. There. Look at that. Is that beautiful? Lovely stuff. Anyway, I'll catch you later.